This is Small Biz David, and welcome today. We're going to continue something that we did yesterday, and that was to do a YouTube recording of a Stickam live streaming broadcast that I do. I broadcast live on Stickam most of the time, 7 days a week. 6 days of the week at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at on Sundays I actually start at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yesterday at Stickham and YouTube, I did a discussion, shared a discussion on 7 traits that make entrepreneurs tick. And based upon some feedback that I got from that, both at Stickam and at YouTube, I did a little bit of research and found an article that I wanted to share today from Fortune magazine. And it is the 12 greatest entrepreneurs of our time and what you can learn from them. It was from the April 2012 edition of Fortune magazine. And so I also wanted to let you know that I'm not being rude if I'm turning away from the camera and looking at the live Stickam camera, but that's I can't look live. I can't look at into both unless I look that way, and my eyes go that way. So that's what we're going to do today, and we hope that I hope that you get some great information and continue to give me feedback. So I know if that information I'm sharing is important to you and is helping you make some decisions in your life, either your personal life or in your decision to start your business or in your decision to grow your business. So here we go. The 7 traits that make entrepreneurs tick, as stated in Inc.com. Inc. Is a great magazine that I often share with you stories from Inc. And they come out a couple times a week, maybe a couple times a month, with really good information blogs from their Inc.com website. This particular one was from Steve Tobak, Tobak. 7 things that make great entrepreneurs tick. You have to be a great one to make this list. Uh, Great entrepreneurs all have a process. Uh, Great, as well as a process, they probably have a system that relates very directly to that process. They trust their gut. They trust their gut because they need to take advantage of the ability to make quick decisions. Very, very important in the world of entrepreneurship and small business. They have a passion for what they do. I talk about this all the time. That my 3 P's are passion, persistence, and patience. Not all entrepreneurs. Um, they all have a passion. They all have persistence. Some of them are not as patient as they need to be. But patience is very, very important, particularly when you are starting your business. And we hope certainly that you will start a business in 2013. Number 4 on what makes great entrepreneurs tick is they're usually quick on the uptake. They can assimilate data, come to grips with a situation, or grasp something that maybe took someone else as many as 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours to understand. They are quick on the uptake. Number 5, they're born problem solvers. Uh, that is probably my strongest characteristic as an entrepreneur is my ability to solve problems, and my ability to meet the challenge. They work their they've got something to prove as number 6. If they didn't have something to prove, they wouldn't be doing what it is that they do. And the last one is they work their tails off. Absolutely, we work our tails off, but it's important to differentiate between working smartly with your business, or if you have to spend long hours and maybe you're not as efficient as you possibly can be because you are working more hours than you need to work. And we actually can turn to my friend and mentor uh, Michael Gerber, who talks about um, he was the very first one to share the concept of working uh, on your business. Successful entrepreneurs work on their business and not necessarily in their business. They work on their business because they have a process, because they have developed a system that we talk about. Okay, so those are the 7 characteristics. Let's get right into find out who Fortune magazine and specifically John Byrne thinks are the 12 greatest entrepreneurs of all time. And I wanted to read some of his intro paragraphs because it really does set the tone for this whole discussion. Great ideas are hard to come by. Putting them to work is even harder. I'm reading on page 69 from the April 2012 edition of Fortune magazine. Great ideas are hard to come by. Putting them to work is even harder. Meet the founders who turn concepts into companies and change the face of business. Opening paragraph. When Jeff Bezos came up with the idea for what would become Amazon.com, he went on a stroll in Central Park in New York with his boss at the time to share his epiphany. That's another thing that entrepreneurs have. They have epiphanies. Bezos in 1992, which was 20 years ago, was a senior vice president for the New York hedge fund D.E. Shaw. He described his dream to create a company that would sell books on the internet. His boss listened intently before offering a bit of advice. That sounds like a really good idea, but it would be an even better idea for someone who didn't already have a good job, as Jeff did. Big ideas of the ground shifting variety are rare and they are hard to pull off. But that's the difference between the dreamer and the doer. It took Bezos all of 48 hours to decide to quit his job and get started. Some 18 years later, he is still at the helm of Amazon. 18 years later. Oh, yes. No, almost 20 years later. It's 1992. Who did their math? Uh, in April, the company Amazon.com was valued at over $80 billion and employed 56,000 people. Just real quickly here, Jeff Bezos is doing something else right now that is just phenomenal. Whereas he wanted to start an online business, right now he is spending great resources taking his business offline to build warehouses, distribution centers around the country so that in delivering whatever it is that Amazon sells, and as we all know, it's not just books anymore, that there are warehouses that will distribute these goods quicker, faster, and better than when he originally started the company. There again is the vision of how to make things better and why you want them to make things better. And he, uh, I really noticed how impactful this really was this year as uh, somebody as large and powerful as Walmart is taking notice of what Amazon.com is doing in terms of these distribution centers. And Walmart then made an announcement about 3, 4 months ago that they would guarantee if you bought online, and you can go to Walmart.com and buy online, just like you could go to Amazon.com and buy online. You could get same day delivery of those goods by taking your order into a Walmart store. And there's thousands of those stores, so they actually have a distribution network that Amazon, I don't know that they want to build as big a distribution network as Walmart has, but it's interesting to see now how Amazon took their business to the next level, and Walmart answering what Amazon.com was doing is taking their business to another level. Okay, so that's signs of great entrepreneurs. Here's the list. I don't think it's a big surprise to find number one on the list is Steve Jobs. Look at this picture of Steve. It's kind of tells the story of what type of individual he was, and we're learning a lot about Steve Jobs since he passed away earlier this year. Uh, his bit of advice, and I'll share with you the entrepreneur and the advice that they share. His advice was say no to focus groups and market research, which is kind of an interesting position to take. And the little note that we found uh, why Steve made that statement, because uh, businesses will tell you they need market research and they need focus groups to tell them what folks think about whatever it is that they're doing and where they should go and what they should do and how they should do it so that they would answer the needs and wants and desires of the end user. Well, Steve says disregard those focus groups and market research. And his comment is, did Alexander Graham Bell do any market research before he invented the telephone? Great, great thought. And pausing once again for a moment before we move on to number two, also not a surprise, uh, was that it was very wonderful before Steve died earlier this year. About a month or two before he died, Apple, the company that he co-founded, was the most valuable company in the world. So here he was able to actually on that day, and now they go back and forth, and the way they determine value is the number of outstanding shares there are in that company and what the share of stock is worth. So you take the number of shares, multiply it by what it is worth. What it is worth is what somebody will pay for it, and as we all know, that'll fluctuate day to day. But for a couple weeks before Steve actually passed away, his company, Apple, was the most valuable company in all the world. What a great feeling that was for that entrepreneur. Number two on the list, a gentleman by the name of Bill Gates, who started Microsoft, co-founded Microsoft. Another co-founder. Here's a great picture of Bill Gates sitting on a pillow. And the thought that Bill shares with: find very smart people and create small teams. That's how he was able to build Microsoft into the company that it is. And Microsoft today is probably the most challenged large company that there is. Challenged in that this year, 2012, was the very first year since Microsoft was started that more than half the world using uh, a computer was not using a PC. This is the first year that that statement could ever be made. Uh, so just so happens that Bill Gates is no longer making decisions. Well, he's probably still making some decisions, but not day-to-day decisions at Microsoft. Steve Ballmer is. Okay, number 3 on the list is a name that maybe you haven't heard, but you certainly have heard of his company. A gentleman by the name of Fred Smith, and the name of his company is FedEx. Really changed the way that we think about shipping goods. And Fred's advice was rely on first level managers. If you're going to build a large company, you have to empower and rely upon those people who are what he calls the first level managers in your company. Number 4 on the list, the fortune list, was a gentleman that we've already mentioned, Jeff Bezos. And Jeff's word of advice is to Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon.com. His advice is take regular mini retreats. Step away from your business. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you really can't step away from your business unless you have the right process and the right system in place that allows you to do that, and let your first level managers that Fred Smith from FedEx just referenced with the model that was originally discussed by Michael Gerber. Okay, number 5 on the list is actually a team of entrepreneurs. Take a wild guess on who that team is. It wouldn't be such a wild guess. If you guessed, I was looking at this picture, trying to read what it said underneath it. If you guessed Larry Page and Sergey Brin from a company called Google, you guessed right. Here's an interesting early picture in I suppose, the room where Google got started. There's a picture. Larry is on the right, and Sergey is sitting down. Their advice is a great bit of advice for entrepreneurs. Spare no expense on innovation. Business and entrepreneurship has its roots in innovation. Okay, number 6 on the list, a gentleman by the name of Howard Schultz. You, once again, might not be familiar with his name, but you certainly are familiar with his product called Starbucks Coffee. And one of the books I keep by my side at close hand is Howard Schultz's book, Onward. How Starbucks fought for its life without losing its soul. Here's a great bit of advice from Howard Schultz. Always challenge the old ways. In the darkest days of the Great Recession, many analysts and media pundits had written off Starbucks as an overreaching victim of changing consumer habits. Interesting perspective in a company that when you buy Starbucks coffee, you're paying more per gallon for a cup of coffee than you pay for a gallon of gas, way more. Uh, Number 7 on the list, and here's one that I would personally rank higher because he's uh, one of my top 3 or 4 favorite entrepreneurs of all times, and I just need to show you his picture, and you'll know who I'm talking about. Of course, it is the Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. And the reason why I'm so fascinated with him as an entrepreneur is that he started to build his enterprise, his business, his Facebook empire when he was 20 years old, dropped out of Harvard to build it, start it, grow it, and in less than 8 years, created a company that had profiles of 1 billion people connected, and a company, when he went public with a company in May of this year, the company was valued at $100 billion, which created somewhere around $16 billion of net worth for him, although it's fallen in value. But I shared last week something that Mark did, which even enhances my opinion of him as an entrepreneur and human being, that he pledged $1 billion of Facebook stock to charity. And here he was, a 28-year-old, pledging $1 billion of wealth to charity, charitable causes. And it just that tells the story in and of itself. And Mark's advice is embrace paranoia. What a great idea! Thought. Embrace paranoia. Okay, number 8 on the list. Uh, Once again, a gentleman, you probably don't know his name, but you certainly know his company. A gentleman by the name of John Mackey, and the name of his company is Whole Foods. What a great company it is. I visit Whole Foods in Cincinnati, Ohio. By the way, the Whole Foods in Cincinnati, Ohio, as a side note, has a great wine tasting on Friday evenings. The information that John, his advice that he gives to folks is purpose inspires people. Purpose inspires people. And you see a sense, and you feel a sense of purpose, making the world a better place. You feel that when you're in his stores. Here's another individual who I'm sure you don't know his name, or know him of his name, but you do know his company. His name is Herb Gellerer, and Herb started Southwest Airlines. Here's a wonderful picture of him kissing one of his airplanes. Southwest Airlines, very, very profitable airlines, and always, for as long as I can remember, ranks number 1 in customer satisfaction among the airlines. That is why his company has been able to continue to grow, continue to be extremely profitable, and has always been like the little guy fighting the big guy. Done a wonderful job. His word of advice: make your customers number one. That's his advice, and uh, there is a reason why Southwest Airlines ranks number one every year in customer satisfaction. Number 10, Narayana Murthy. Uh, Narayana has a company that you might not even be familiar with. I am familiar with them. A company called Infosys. They are. He started the company when he was 28 years old, and they are a software company, very very successful software company. His advice: sacrifice today, cash in tomorrow. Great bit of advice for an entrepreneur. And number 11 on the list, what would a list of successful entrepreneurs, wonderful entrepreneurs be without the name Sam Walton, founder of Walmart? And Walmart's a very interesting company in that it's a very, very large company, does a lot of sales, but it's always a company, it seems like to be a company always under attack by the public for something going on in the company, policies in the company, but continues to grow. Not as fast as it used to, but it still continues to grow. And Sam Walton's advice was give the people what they want. Let's talk about that real quickly. He had give the people what he wanted, certainly his credo. And what the people wanted was the best price that they could possibly get on any given item. And that was always his goal, and his mission was to bring products into his stores and sell them at the best price available in the marketplace. And in doing so, has created some unpopular positions, situations for his company. At one time, we know that he promoted Made in the USA. It was a very important concept, but not too long after that, in order for him to continue to provide the best price in the market on his products, he had to go to China to buy them. And today, Walmart is the second largest purchaser of Chinese products, which includes countries. Uh, I suppose the United States is probably the number one purchaser of Chinese products. Number two in dollars purchased is Walmart. So they are greater than the rest of the countries in the world. Okay, and the final one on the list. I want to talk about this gentleman further, and I'm not going to mention too much today, but we're going to talk about him maybe this week. A gentleman by the name of Muhammad Yunus, and he started a company called the Grameen Bank, and his advice is that small gifts can equal big impacts. He's a gentleman that has given millions of dollars to folks to start businesses, $25, $30, $40, $100 at a time. And I want to spend some more time with him because he's a wonderful, wonderful human being and has done great things. I guess we should give this list. Their honorable mention list has 5 people. Fortune Magazine's honorable mention, and we're going to end with their honorable mention list. Liz Claiborne, Liz Claiborne Company, Michael Dell, Dell Computers, Anita Roddick, The Body Shop, Ted Turner, Turner Broadcasting. By the way, I read his book and listened to his book. Very, very insightful. I learned a lot of great things about him. And by the way, Ted Turner uh, raises more buffalo than any other individual in the world, and in fact controls 20% of the buffaloes in the United States and Canada. And the last honorable mention on the list was Oprah Winfrey, uh, Harpo Productions. Oprah's struggling right now as she left what she was doing to start the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I know her company is not doing what she certainly had hoped it would do. Okay, great, great list. Fortune magazine's the 12 greatest entrepreneurs of our time. We shared with you the 7 traits of that make entrepreneurs tick, and this will end our discussion. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know.